resume. So I want to get our PowerPoint recorded. So hi, please place your names in the chat. And I will, just as a refresher, I put all PowerPoints and recordings on the BACCC website for the teacher pipeline RJV. So you can always go back and look and see any information that you missed or any details or live links to emails or anything like that. So quick announcement, just got this memo. I thought I would just plop the whole thing in here. Chancellor's office is doing a reminder that they're expecting the CAI grants by November 12th. NOVA is now open to receive them. And I do want to mention that the apprenticeship program lead is a different person. Monique, do you know who Sean McCobb is? Because it used to say somebody else.
I think those are the two guys who did the, what do you call it? The bidders.
Yeah. Yeah.
They seem to have the depth of insight you might have anticipated.
I know. It was Nick Escobar and someone else. So I don't know, maybe they've reassigned or whatever, but just if you're interested in CAI, just wanted to reinforce that this memo just came out and there's links here to the bidders conference questions and due December 12th.
Kathleen, did they change that date? I thought they said December 17th was.
So did I. Yes, I did. I saw that.
I think it's a typo.
Well.
Or were they changing like that?
It is because the 12th is a Sunday.
Yeah, isn't that funny? This, I copied and pasted this directly from the letter. So if you get the WED info, the WED letters, they went out today about an hour before this workshop. So check that. I agree, it is probably a typo, but I just cut and paste it. So
no, I agree. I see the same thing in my email. I'm just like, wait a second, the dates are all different.
Well, I would ask Gary or Sean right away because they can send out a new one. That is what everyone got. So yeah, I had the 17th on my newsletter. So anyway, good point. You're correct. That's what I thought as well. So I would ask them. I'll send an email after our thing too, but you guys can probably do that quickly. So anyway, NOVA's open, blah, 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 blah. Just want to make sure you saw that, maybe incorrect date. Again, we've just had a few people join, put your names and emails in the chat and this is a very short PowerPoint. So National Apprenticeship Week is November 15th to 21st. So yay. If you have any, they're highlighting both apprentices and programs. So if you have any blooming programs or new programs or apprentices, please feel free to highlight. It'd be great to have someone from our sector because we're going to get all the apprentices from the transportation industry, and it would be great to have a few from ECE or EDU. At the very least, share with your marketing folks at your colleges, and you can talk about, hey, we have people interested in starting apprenticeships in ECE and EDU. Save the date. Our next ECE EDU apprenticeship RJV meeting is December 1st. Understanding workforce development boards, and Randi will be, Randi who's on this call will be facilitating this with Charles Henkels, Bob Lantner, and Marianne Prenke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they'll be giving us the Workforce Development Board 101, what they do, how they would be beneficial for us, and
what funding they are.
What funding they may bring. Yes. So hop on, and it's only an hour. So just save the date. Then High Road Training Partnerships. Some of you were on our calls with High Road Training Partnership. We're still in theory an idea moving forward with establishing one in the Bay region. We've got another meeting this week to talk about what that might look like. There will be HRTP funding out in January, and we're going to kind of move forward, I think, unless we get stymied, because we'd love to be the first HRTP in California in ECE. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Just stay tuned. And now for the agenda. See, I told you that was really fast. We have folks who are willing to answer questions. We have 19 people on board here. I had 20 RSVPs, so we may get another one. There's really no formal agenda after this PowerPoint. It's you can unmute and ask your questions. So if you do unmute, introduce yourself. You can also post it in the chat, and I'll monitor the chat as well if you are not able to unmute. So who we have on is Randi. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself. And I'd like to also lift Tina, Tracy, and as kind of new apprenticeships that are getting going and some of the challenges you've had. And then Berkeley City College. If you all can give like a 1 or 2 minute intro, and then feel free, you can unmute or ask questions in the chat. Okay, Randi, do you want to start?
Yeah, do you want to stop sharing the screen so people can see the whole?
Sure.
Just, yeah, great.
There we go.
So, hold on, I'm still looking at the wrong thing here. Okay, so I'm Randi Wolfe. I'm the Executive Director of ECEPTS, which is Early Care and Education Pathways to Success. We are a statewide sector intermediary, which means that we provide training and technical assistance to projects that are just getting launched or in the middle of still developing or whatever, to the extent that we can do those projects in terms of our own internal capacity. We are also an apprenticeship sponsor. We have 4 registered apprenticeship programs that are registered both with the DAS and the U.S. Department of Labor. At the moment, we have about 200 active apprentices across, well, we're either in or work or like launching, soon to launch in 10 counties across the state. And we have about 20 cohorts going at the moment. We sponsor programs for associate teachers who are going to get their associate teacher permit, teachers or master teachers, home visitors, family child care providers. And then we have 3 cohorts of the youth apprenticeship, which is, of which Berkeley City is one. And that's young people who start as juniors in high school and then move through the program. I'm not going to go into any level of detail right now, but we can, I can answer questions that come up. And the last thing I would say is I have been appointed to the Federal Secretary of Labor's Committee on ACA, Advisory Committee on Apprenticeship. It's a committee of 29 people across the country who represent various aspects of labor and apprenticeships and so forth. And of the 29 people, I'm the only one. I went to the first meeting. Believe me when I tell you, I'm the only one representing childcare or care economy or anything closely related. And, we'll see what happens. We're going to be working on, we have to develop a report to go to the Secretary of Labor on recommendations. And it turns out the real work gets done in the subcommittees. And I'll tell you the name of the subcommittee that I'm on, because it explains it well. Hold on a second. Here. The subcommittee is called Industry Engagement in New and Emerging Sectors, which is where we should be. And those of you who know Orion from San Francisco, he's also on that subcommittee. So stay tuned.
That's great. And Randi, can you just clarify that right now you're pausing adding new colleges as an intermediary, right?
Well, it's not quite that simple. I would say we're basically at capacity, and so at the moment, the only capacity we have to expand is for a couple of large funding opportunities that I'm anticipating coming down the pike from the state workforce system in the next 6 months, which may involve some of the folks who are already working with, and may involve in a couple of cases a little bit of expansion, particularly around BA pathways. But we're continuing to scale up. It's not that we're trying to be exclusive, but we just don't have the capacity to just keep replicating programs. And what we're trying to do is also field build. So in case anybody doesn't know, I'll put the link in the chat. We are sponsoring a national conference February 28th to March 2nd in Ontario, California. Every time I say Ontario, someone says, why are you doing it in Canada? But anyhow, but it's in person at a hotel. The hotel is being very smart about COVID stuff, like you have to show proof of vaccination and things like that. And if it turns out it looks too risky, we can postpone the date. but I'm pretty determined to do this in person one way or another, because it will just foster a kind of conversation and camaraderie that you can't get over Zoom. But the purpose of that conference and some of the other field building stuff we do is to be able to teach people what we've learned over these last 6 years without us having to actually do it firsthand.
Right.
It's just a better, it's just a better model. It's like a train the trainer sort of model. So I will put the link in there for the conference in case anyone's interested in pursuing that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Randi. And I'm sure people will have questions for you. Get your coffee cup ready. Tracy, do you want to give a quick intro?
Sure. I'm Tracy Burt from City College of San Francisco, and we are in our first semester of our pilot apprenticeship ECE in special education. And I work really closely with Monique, who's here too. And so yeah, we have 3 apprentices working, and we are in the process of updating our standards so that we can have 2 tracks. We have 1 track that's real intensive for students that's getting their AST while they work. And that's, I've had a few different students be interested who have felt like that was too much for them to take. It's about 14 to 16 units a semester. So we're creating 2 tracks. One is going to be ending at the teacher permit, which is more like around 7-ish units a semester. And then the other one will be ending at AST. So students can start at track 1 and then move to track 2 once they finish track 1. So that's our current update, which I'm really excited about. And Randi is the one that helped me figure out that it wasn't that hard to do. We're just updating the standards and adding an attachment for the second track. Yeah, and someone told us when they saw our first apprenticeship, he said, it looks like you have 4 apprentices in one. And I was like, oh. So Randi, you totally have saved my life and made my life so much easier multiple times. So thank you. He's very helpful.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, that's why we're a collaborative. Try to help each other. Great, Tracy.
And to Kathleen's point, that's, your program is not part of the ECEPTS network.
Right.
So it's not like we hold our cards close.
Right. Right. And we, City College wrote their own standards. And the thing which Randi can clarify also is that you can also base your apprenticeship on standards that have been written too. So it's not like you have to do everything all yourselves and all over again. So we're all here to share. And Tracy can talk about her labor of love in updating standards and then creating another track. So yeah, we're just trying to muddle through. Tina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tina Watson from Skyline College, and we are partnering with ECEPTS. We are out to get some big money now to push our plan through. Sorry, that's my howling dog in the back. He likes the Zoom meetings. And basically, we're doing a 3-year AST and ECE with a master teacher permit, which reduces the amount of time our students are with us by 4 years, and hoping to create a pipeline in San Mateo County that includes all of the pathways that our workforce currently utilize: dual enrollment, high school, adult ed, incumbent, new, and family child care. Great.
Thank you, Tina.
Thanks.
And can I go back one step? Because I see we have a K-12 person, Nick's on the call. Hi, Nick. I want to make sure that you know that the City College apprenticeship had a goal of having dual enrollment students as a priority, and that Berkeley's also has a youth component. So just so you know, there's a link in the pathways. Monique, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. Hi, everyone. I'm Monique Pascual. I'm the Director of Apprenticeship and Instructional Service Agreements for City College of San Francisco. And I work closely with Tracy and Kathy, and good to see you, Randi.
You too.
And Joya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, Kathleen. I'm just so honored to be with the Trailblazers. This is such an incredible group. I'm Joya Chavarin. I'm the Education Teacher Preparation Program Coordinator at Berkeley City College, and I have the honor of building on lessons learned. We've been doing this work somewhat since 2016 with our adult early educator apprenticeship. And then my role was a little different then, but again, all centered around just an equity response as it relates to our workforce, ensuring an on-ramp, ensuring that they're paid at each completion point. And I'll keep it short, Kathleen, because you know
No worries.
it's our passion, but we have a lot of work to do. So I'm really excited to be able to work collaboratively with Tina and Tracy as we continue to discover things within our college that need to be addressed to ensure the equity response. So we have a youth apprenticeship program, working closely with Randi to make sure our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted, and then we have a wonderful connection with the YMCA Early Educator Apprenticeship Program where we provide the related supplemental instruction. We're knee deep, and it's great to see you guys.
Yeah. Great. Thank you all for introducing, and feel free if you want to have questions. And you know, I see Aaliyah on this call. Aaliyah, do you want to ask a question and introduce yourself, because you bring in a different lens? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
And also we want to see you, by the way.
yeah. Aaliyah, are you there? She might have stepped away.
I am.
Oh,
I
hi.
am like stuffing down my lunch.
Oh
and-
no, that's fine.
And
it's a coffee
simultaneously
chat.
finding a power source. So
It's a coffee chat. Don't worry about it.
yeah, I think I'm all settled now.
Okay. So if you want to introduce your yourself, your activities, you know, around apprenticeship, and then any questions.
Yeah, I'm Alea Rosario. I'm with the Partnership for Children and Youth, and we are a statewide intermediary, and we support out of school time and expanded learning, after school, before school programs across the state. And I was previously with another similar organization, and we had a committee of mostly expanded learning program providers, both school district, K-12 school district, and community-based organization providers to develop standards for an expanded learning apprenticeship program. And so I think now is the point where we're sort of looking for partners. The kind of I think strength is that there are several expanded learning employers interested, again, including both K-12 school district and CBO providers. And, you know, so we might be starting from an advantage there by having the employers, you know, interested and on board. And there's a windfall of public funding that's going to support these programs as well. So the idea of creating, you know, progressive wages and so on is actually like more of a reality than it ever has been in previous years. So I think the question is, you know, what for the institutions of higher ed, for the community colleges here, you know, what is the interest? What is needed in terms of, or I guess, how can we take a first step to working together to launch this apprenticeship, perhaps pull it together and put in a CAI application in the next, you know, 6 weeks. But I guess that would be my question. I get it's a big one, but I think that's where we're at.
And Alea, I was on your committee, as you know, but I wanted to mention that there were quite a few employers who participated in developing the standard. So it really was employer involved. So
I would like to say, just for people who are thinking of something, is that our partner is San Francisco Unified, and Kathy and I have been working with them for many years as part of an initiative. And I just think that piece is really important. And I've learned that really trying to get people to stay bought in is part of something I need to keep top of mind, as like, because I'm the main person kind of taking it forward, and I'm talking to people all the time, but I need to be really conscious of being inclusive in the process. And so that just made me think of that.
Yeah. Alea, do you want to say how much money is coming to after school programs?
Yeah, over the next 5 years, it will increase to 5 billion. This year, I
B.
think it's billion, yes.
Yeah, B.
So, allocations went out to districts or were announced to school districts. Sorry, dog's now found her squeaky toy. So, I mean, school districts are getting a lot of money, like over, $1,200 per student, that meets a certain kind of requirements. So there are some school districts that are getting millions of dollars to expand or create expanded learning after school, before school programming.
I love the sound effects. This is perfect. It's perfect. It almost sounds like a screaming child saying, give me an after school program. So in addition to the money, what the standards had were school age courses as well as typical child development courses. So school age curriculum, child development, child family community, observation. I mean, you can look at the draft standards, but I think you're asking what that sounds like to just the community colleges on the call. And I think the Bay region would love to be a test site.
Alea, I have a question, and you may have said this and I spaced out because I got a conflicting email as these things go. But remind me, what is the goal, the way you designed the apprenticeship, what is the professional title thereafter that they're going, are they going to be teachers? Are they going to be professional after school workers? I mean, what is I get industry, target? That's what I was saying.
Yeah. It's hard because there's not a standard, there's not a standard title for these positions. But it's instructional aid, kind of frontline level worker. And so for these positions, again, the requirements are varied across the state, but most, most are pretty low, like barriers to entry for these jobs. And Letty is a colleague in the field as well, so feel free to chime in here. But I would say like instructional aid is the maybe most inclusive description or occupation.
Okay, so you're not looking at this as a pathway from which they go into the teaching profession per se, because you and I talked about that.
Yeah. No, this would be like the first step, right? And the standards that were designed lead to an AA.
Okay, so, but what would the AA be in?
Could be in child development.
Yeah.
That's what we.
So the thing, I mean, I think
Or liberal studies.
Part of what you're going to hit up against is the educational pathway in an apprenticeship should lead to the training necessary to assume the position for which they're training. And it sounds like they're going to come out basically really overqualified for the position that they're in, right? And so it seems a little, not lopsided isn't the right word. It's like if an AA isn't required to be an after school worker, for example, then an apprenticeship doesn't make sense because you don't need an AA. The point with an apprenticeship is you're training to get the thing so that you can take this position you're aiming towards. Which is why, in my mind, when you talk about expanded learning, it could become a registered pre-apprenticeship. Because the other thing is, you have to do 2,000 hours for an apprenticeship, which is a lot, which could take a long time for someone who's working like part-time hours in an after-school program.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. One of the things that we did discuss is, the pathway within this field, would the sort of logical next step would be a site coordinator, right? So someone that oversees a team of staff and so on. And it's often that kind of population of folks that once they get to a site coordinator level, anecdotal, evidence tells us like they're going to stay in this field. They want to be an educator. So that's good insight. Kathleen, you were going to say.
But then if
something.
that's the case, you could redesign this so that it's a site coordinator apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And newcomers to extended learning positions could, because they're doing the on-the-job training, that's already kind of been built in.
Yeah.
And you put forth the coursework that they would need in order to be a site coordinator. And it doesn't have to be a degree. There are a zillion apprentices that do not require a degree.
Right.
So including
Yeah.
our associate teacher apprenticeship, it requires 2,000 hours. That one requires 4 college courses. That's all they need to take that position.
Yeah.
I want to get, Letty had her hand up, so I want to
right,
make
Letty.
sure she gets a minute. And just to let you know, Randy, there were people on the standards committee, though, from teacher pipeline programs. So there was an awareness that a number of after-school folks have expressed an interest in becoming credentialed teachers. So that would be one
Well, that's a whole
pathway.
different discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Letty, do you have a?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here. Alea, so nice to see you. Very interesting conversations that we've been having. And so my colleague, Mara Wold, who I believe several of you've met during the last meeting, also attended. She's not here today, so I'm stepping in. We've been having these conversations for years with our partners, with our local UC, CSU, and community colleges. And so what we see in our staff is a lot of passion, a lot of motivation, a lot of dedication towards supporting our students and our families. What Alea was describing is so true, right? We get them as frontline staff, so they provide direct service to the students. And then the next step is a site coordinator. And from there, they can go into program management. What we're seeing here are 2 different opportunities of pathways. One of them, or actually even more, some of our staff go into social work. A lot of them go into the teaching pathways, which is not easy, very, very hard to do. So we're trying to make it easier, make it more cohesive. Others decide ECE will be their route. But the hope is that we're able to create open doors of pathways that are supportive, that they could do their hours and apprenticeships during expanded learning time. And what we've been faced with is a lot of obstacles. We've been having conversations again with our local schools that a lot of the courses take presence during after school time. And so you get put in a wall where they want to continue higher education, they want to go into the teaching pathways, but they can't do both at the same time. So that is one. The other one that was being shared is what do we do with those that might not be interested in going into teaching, right? Really supporting that they can come back and be a support system. We're seeing a lot of more mental health support in our local schools. They can become TOSAs. We are in higher need. Our mission is that we support students year round and that they become successful in life, college, and career. And for life, we need a lot of support systems. And so one of them that we would love to see is that we create more cohesive systems where we're working with Core Day, that we have more TOSAs, so teachers on special assignments, that could do both worlds. And we do have some, but not all. Not all have that lucky system in place. Oh, I see Kim on the line. Hi,
Yep.
Kim. So she
Letty,
is-
do you want to share what district you're from? Because Kim just joined.
Yes. So Kim and I, we've known each other for quite a while, and it was just life that ended up connecting us. So I'm part of Monterey County Office of Ed, but I'm part of the expanded learning systems of support with the state. So along with Alea, myself and a lot of colleagues are well dedicated to our expanded learning time, which is out of school time, before after school and summer intercession.
Great. And
Let
she-
me add 2 things. One specifically in response to something Letty said. Let me add 3 things. So first is, don't try and use apprenticeship as if it's some golden ticket. It's not. It is what it is. It is what it is. It can't be this and it can't be that. And there's no advantage to trying to make it be those things. That's number 1. But number 2, when you said the problem is that they're trying to work and that's when the classes are offered, that's where an apprenticeship, and Joya can speak to this for sure, that's where an apprenticeship could serve you well, because in our programs, we never have the apprentices go to the campus for classes that are in their normal catalog. We develop a cohort. The whole cohort takes the class together. It's offered at a community-based site according to a schedule that serves the needs of the workers, which means evenings and Saturdays. And one of the advantages to doing an apprenticeship is that you have to find the right community college who's willing to be flexible and shares your vision, but it gives you that flexibility to offer classes at non-traditional times. That should not be a barrier. That's a barrier, you know, I and other people can help you address. The one other thing I want to say, and then I think, Joya, jump in after, as soon as I finish this one more point. I was on a call this morning about from the National Center on Teacher Residencies. I just wanted to hear what they're up to. So first of all, some of you may know, they apparently have no, they don't. California is investing, I forget what they said, $50 million or $450 million.
Yes.
It was an unbelievable amount of money into this notion of building teacher residencies.
Right.
I, of course, quickly typed into the chat box, in anticipation of funding for universal preschool, have you begun considering how to expand teacher apprenticeships to include ECE folks? So, and I will follow up with them, right? But somebody from I just learned this morning, someone from the Gates Foundation chatted me in response and said that they just funded the Glenn Price Group to look into apprenticeships for teachers. They were responding back to because the whole conversation was K-12. I did not know Glenn Price was funded to look into apprenticeships for teachers. I have been trying to figure out how to get the K-12 system to be able to think and chew gum, or walk and chew gum, to be able to think about teacher residencies, but within the framework of an apprenticeship for the economics of it. So I don't know, like, Alea, I don't know if this is going to end up helping you or not, but because if they're trying to investigate how to set up teacher apprenticeships, they're going to have to start somewhere. And maybe, because I think the biggest barrier to using the extended learning folks as extended learning jobs as a pathway into teacher pathways has been that the school districts weren't willing to do it, right? And so maybe this is a step in that direction. Joya, jump in. Sorry.
Yeah, I was chatting Alea, like I want to connect with her after the call, because you're right, Alea, the school age piece is not clear, but we did get contacted by our school board because there is so much money and they're very interested in building out that pipeline, instructional aides, paraprofessionals that lead to a teaching credential.
Right.
So there is a possibility there, and as well as interdisciplinary coursework to get the ADT, associate degree for transfer, to their BA, to their credential, especially with the new reg changes where they no longer need the CSAT, and they're based. So there's just a lot of possibilities with regards to pathway and embedded supports. But agree too, Randi, it's employer driven. So the classes have to be at night, have to be on the weekends, have to remediate barriers. What does that look like for our population? So everything to ensure their success, from childcare support to food to transportation. So that's the difference with the apprenticeship model, is that, you know, I know we're the college, but it is definitely employer driven. So it should be responsive to the workforce needs. So I'll end it there.
Thank you, Joya. And Tracy has her hand up, and I have a quick question, Alea, before Tracy goes. Didn't Glenn Price Group sponsor the CAN conference that we were at?
Yeah, I like to think that Glenn Price Group is even exploring teacher apprenticeship or teacher residency and apprenticeship because of the
conference. Yeah, because they were asking a lot of questions and didn't know a lot at that conference. So that's very interesting that the conference provided so much information that now they're funding it.
Yeah.
Okay, Tracy.
Thank you. So I have a question, Randi. So you were talking about, so we have these two tracks right now. So it's the teacher permit track and the AST track that's for people that are transferring to a BA credential program, but it's got the problem that you mentioned, which is an AST degree doesn't qualify you to do anything in particular in the field as an employment field, right? So, but we are, you know, we have a partnership with the Parity Teacher Program in the district, which provides like $4,000 a semester for the BA program once they have 60 units. So, and the apprentices will have priority in that program. So we're building these partnerships, and I'm meeting actually with San Francisco State School of Ed tomorrow, and also wanting to look at, I mean, it's kind of a wrench. I mean, I'm really glad we have CSET equivalency, but we might need to switch to some sort of liberal, I don't know if we're going to have to switch to a liberal studies major, but in order to get CSET equivalency. But I guess this is a similar in after school and in special education. I think there's two questions I have if you have insight on this, but there's a lack of alignment between the educational system and the needs of employment. So we need after school folks need specific kind of youth worker training. Special education folks need special education training, and they're not required to have anything to work. There's a low barrier to entry, right? And we're desperate for people, to be honest, right? And so the other part of that is like we create coursework to respond to that need, but then it's not transferable inside a major. It's transferable as electives, which is fine, but it really stops students. It takes them off their path. So it's like, how do we begin these other conversations that can help to infuse this training right from the start? You throw a para in with a kid with special needs, they need training and support right away. Why do we lose half of the people, within a couple of years? Because they don't have training and support. So there's that question. But then also, should we be is it okay to have this AST apprenticeship when it's really like, even though it is for supporting people in the pathway, it doesn't really get them anything in the...
Yeah, but that one's easier because when they finish the AST, what level of permit do they qualify for?
Well, the teacher permit, the same one, really.
They can't get the master teacher or the site supervisor with an AAT?
Yeah.
Nope, they need additional units. The other pushback I'm getting from the employer partner is, it's another program, but is that students come to them with too many child development units. So, you're supposed to be able to get an AST in 60 units, which you can do, but you can't do that and get the units that you need for either the site supervisor. We already have 6 extra units because of special education. Site supervisor would be, I think, 6 extra unit. Master teacher would be just 2 extra units. But there's a prereq too, so it might be 5 more. And so they're pushing back. We could theoretically make that part of our last semester. However, we'll get pushback from some of our partners because we're lengthening students' time.
Right. So here's the thing. One, talk to Joya about how, because I don't remember, to be honest, how the YMCA does it such that when they get their AA degrees, they have the site supervisor permit embedded in it. And it may just be it's a different ballgame. I don't know. So, but she could certainly explain that to you. The other thing is, getting a degree, it's because they're on the way to get, in other words, you can't get a BA in education and whatever's going to turn out to be the ECE credential without a BA. So it is en route. Right. The ideal would be that there be a BA level apprenticeship so they could finish their AST as a qualification to qualify them to then go into, and they finish their AST apprenticeship. Now they join a new apprenticeship through which they get their BA. That's the kind of pipeline we want to build. But it takes all this work and coordination. The last thing I would say, and your hands are kind of tied because you're at City College, but let's just say we were having a conversation and you weren't at City College, you were at a community-based organization trying to train a workforce, which is trying to fill your workforce needs, which is what an apprenticeship is for. I would say to you, take this in the right spirit, right? I would say to you, if City College won't be flexible and innovative and visionary, find a college that will be. Now, I understand that's kind of a silly thing to say to you in particular, but that is the reality because not all the community colleges are equally willing to be innovative or visionary or radical or whatever word you want to use. And this stuff requires colleges to think outside the box. And a lot of times when you talk to a new community college, they say, oh yeah, we've done that before. We've done that before. And when a community college says that to me, I know I've got work to do because you haven't done it before. It sounds like something you've done, but it's not quite the same. And here's what makes it very distinctively different. So at some level, you have to get your college, this may be impossible what I'm saying. I'm just saying, you have to get your college, whether it's the dean of the program that you're in, or the dean, the chair of whatever you call it, the director of apprenticeships on your campus, or the career and technical ed department. You got to figure out where the power is and where the decision makers are. And you have to get people who are willing to say, this is a significant need. We want to work as a college to meet this need. So let's get the right committee together and start figuring out how to work through the cracks of the system.
Randy, I would add, and I want to call on Alice, and there's a few folks here who are going to have ECE questions. But Randy, I think in the case that Tracy's describing, it's less the community college and more the 4-year and more the CTC, because right now the Commission on Teacher Credentialings, we've got TK coming in and we don't really have a pathway. We have after school expansion.
We don't know what it's going to include, right?
Right, after school expansion, we don't really have a pathway. And we've got the 4 years asking for really 3 different sets of prerequisite courses and pathways for folks that may not know which pathway they want. So I would defer at this juncture to say the community colleges are really GE driven. I think only in special ed do we ask people to do extra. Even with the ECE permit, I mean, that's the state's problem. You know, they're asking, that's the permit. I mean, that the permit needs that. And the jobs suddenly, this year, the jobs broke out of the molds. We've got folks who maybe an ECE and they want to go to TK, maybe an after school and they want to go to a residency program, maybe, you know, paraprofessional and they want to go into SPED and they need special classes. So I think it's a CTC conundrum right now. I'm gonna defer that, but I want to hear from Alice, because I think Alice, you and I have kind of talked about that situation, and maybe introduce where you're from.
Yeah, I'm from Chabot College in Hayward, and I would say that where I feel we're really locked in is with the transfer degrees. Those are state mandated requirements. We can't, if we call it a transfer degree, it has to be what the state says it is. And that's where you run, because we have the same thing, Tracy. We have a great intervention degree, but it's way more units. And, you know, to have students do that and transfer is a lot of units. And and then there's a new bill that Newsom signed that students who come into the college and declare that they want to transfer are immediately put on a transfer degree pathway. So you can even design an alternative pathway with all of the transfer degree requirements. But if they're going to be locked into a transfer degree from the moment they arrive on campus, you know, that's a real burden. But I mean, I think that this is something we struggle with. I'm really frustrated that the standards for people working with special needs children in elementary schools are not higher. And I wonder if this can be a way to push that. If employers decide, well, to get this job, you need this kind of requirement, even independent of state licensure, can that drive that? I mean, they can, the employers can set the level, right?
Our home visitor apprenticeship, I mean, there's no state credential for home visiting, right? There's no degree. There might be some program that trains something like, but it's really social work and all that, right? We invented it. And we said the 6 courses you're going to take for this home visitor are the 4 that get you the ECE associate teacher permit. So that first of all, you have that grounding, but second of all, you have that option. You have 2 career pathways at the end. And then we added 2 classes that are sort of intro to social work, but they're in the sociology department because community colleges don't generally have social work departments. The only thing you need is you need an employer to say, remember, all you need to create an apprenticeship is an employer who says, I want to do this apprenticeship. So we have 2 employers down in, this is in Antelope Valley in LA County, who said, we buy into what you're, I mean, they helped us come up, we didn't just come up with it, we came up with it collaboratively. And what they're saying is, our home visitor apprentices will be required to take these 6 courses. If they take these 6 courses and do the 2,000 hours and blah, 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 they will have successfully completed their apprenticeship. So you absolutely could design that as long as you have an employer who says, this is what we want for our special ed folks, or for our paraprofessionals, or for our XL folks, whatever. It's not up to, at that point, it's not up to the college because it's not degree driven. it's not even certificate driven necessarily. But I bet you if you have enough, I bet if you have enough people who want it, though, it'll suddenly become a certificate. But that's another conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I want to hear from Janice because she put an interesting comment in the chat about the new ethnic studies requirement. But I do think that what Ella said about folks getting tracked, we're under great pressure to graduate people. And so if someone self-identifies as a transfer student or one that's on a specific pathway, the state has given colleges so little flexibility. So, they have to graduate with X amount of units, and our jobs require more content. We're a CTE department where we have job-related content that will help them do their jobs better. But because future teachers from TK on need a BA, they're tracked into transfer and the BA pathway. So we're in between and betwixt and between. And that's the problem with our profession. Janice, do you want to illuminate the lack of choice now? Because our choices just went down.
Prior to this last year, we had 3 courses that we could double count into general ed. Our child growth and development, which most students did, is area E. Our child, family, and community, and teaching in diverse societies, that were area D courses. And then they always did political science because that's essentially required to transfer. Now they've taken one of the area D courses instead of area C. There was this big debate whether what was needed for students. And we only have one child development course that can now count towards transfer, which means 3 units less of double counting, which means less elective recommendations towards moving students towards their master permit or site supervisor. There were 2 other things I wanted to say. One is Randi and I are brand new. We came to the Teach for the Bay, and then I did that wonderful program that you had with Pam Shaw and people like that. But we are like all of these acronyms, and we're in over our heads. I'm taking lots of notes, but we're going to need, if at the end you could say, because you keep 2,000 hours seems common. So I'm wondering, is that a requirement? The other thing I want to say, and you've got me thinking, we did the first program to program articulation with St. Mary's College. Mm-hmm. You can do a bachelor's degree with a combined, not a push down, not extra units, a teaching credential. Mm-hmm. And the CSUs have some barriers around that because they have the 5-year pathway and you can't get Pell Grants for both. But we have the first program to program articulation with Los Medanos and St. Mary's. So those students get a bachelor's degree in justice, community, and leadership, and a teaching credential in either special ed or early childhood. I mean, not great. Early childhood, elementary. So I'm starting to think about, because we already have that partnership with them, could we kind of package this but we need some major tutoring, and I don't know, because we're behind. And Randy's on the call now too. I don't know how we're gonna figure this all out. I don't think we're ready for anything December 12th, whatever that thing is, due December 17th or 12th. But for next year, if we could use this year as a planning year and getting our partners, we'd like to jump in. We just feel really, we don't know enough yet.
What college are you at?
We're at Los Medanos College in East Contra Costa County. So I saw Nick, and we already emailed that we're going to connect together because he's from our county office of ed. Mm-hmm. But we would like to do this. From just learning about it. And I'm sorry, we're so behind the game, but we would like to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And so, but you all are talking amongst people who have all this knowledge. We need a really intro meeting. I don't know if that's possible or if that's the last half hour of this one.
No, 2 things. Thank you for being on the call or the Zoom, Janice. And it's Randi Osborne, who's the Randi, not Randi Wolfe. So we've got 2 Randis here. Welcome, Randi Osborne. And all of our introductory PowerPoints and recordings are on the BACCC website. So you can also go back, and we've got intro what is an apprenticeship and all that. So you can just kind of
Okay,
participate
great.
in that way. And I'm happy to, meet with you. I know we had talked about Las Madonas, but has anyone, do you want, I know Joya, you want to elaborate on your partnership with the private college? Because St. Mary's, your model is great for these 3 pathways. It really is. And I know Berkeley had a model with a private college.
I've been talking a lot, but I echo what you all just said. We're doing a lot of articulation agreements. We did have our BA folks in Bremen, and like Randi indicated, my hat was a little different back then. So when you work for the employer, if the college isn't able to offer what you need, you just work with the other college to make sure that the pathway is clear and clean and smooth for your apprentice. So similar attitude. We have a cohort, and the way they get their permits and the things that they need is we make sure they can enroll as a cohort, which is a little bit of a paradigm shift, holding the college hat. But it is definitely a student-centered equity framework. You're making sure that your students have no barriers to reach their transfer goals. So I don't, it's a lot, as it relates to the curriculum limitations. So I recommend when the AAT elementary ed degree is up for feedback, we all are on that committee because it needs to be updated. It isn't in line with workforce industry needs in the early childhood as well as school age population. So yeah, that's another coffee chat offline. I'm happy to have coffee with you all or to discuss some of the ways you have to maneuver because of the systemic structures you're in within the community college system. Yeah.
You were with which college when Joya for the BA pathway?
So when we were initially funded with Randi ECEPTS, it was through Bremen University.
Okay.
Bremen University, and we learned a lot, because as some of you all know, we have teachers who are incumbent workers who've been in the field for a very long time that already had their teacher permits for 25 years. So they never took Cap 8 classes and the things that we're talking about today. And so when you have a private college that says, hey, even your teachers with site supervisor permits have to go back and take courses because they don't have the prereq to get the BA. So there were a lot of lessons learned and uncovered a lot of barriers that.
One of the things that we're going to try and do in I'd say over the course of the next year is to pilot at least 2 BA pathways, one with the CSU and one with the private nonprofit or whatever you call them. It would be a pathway that shows an apprenticeship pathway, so that the apprenticeship goes all the way up through their BA. And it's partly we're attempting to make it so that it responds to whatever the CTC decides about the new ECE credential / eligibility for TK. Not wanting to actually, strip the ECE community of all these good teachers. That's a whole nother, issue of who's going to end up in TK, but at least to have models of ways to, because I think it's going to be critical. Otherwise, we know this. Otherwise, the cost alone is going to be prohibitive, and our ECE incumbent workers aren't going to get their BAs, and they're not going to be open. They're not going to be eligible for the best paying ECE jobs in the field. Right. So we're going to try and model that and see what happens. I'll certainly keep you guys posted.
All right. As we wind down with the Q&A piece, I want to make sure Fong or Barbara, Lisette, do you have any questions? Kim, oh, you got your hand up. Kim.
Hi. Kim Sakamoto from Cabrillo College. Hello to everybody, and have one question that comes out of ECE. So Cabrillo College has a lab school, has an ECE lab school. And so there are a series of 4 practica that students can take, which would accumulate to about 1,600 hours. And so on the same site, we have
1,600 on the job training hours, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so on the same site, there's a Head Start. And so Cabrillo ECE department would like to partner with that Head Start program and create a an apprenticeship together? And has anyone had experience working with Head Start? And if they have, either if I could have a contact or just give us a quick overview of what that's like.
That's yours, Joya.
I have to admit, I'm a former Head Start parent. So the Head Start Apprenticeship Program was the first name of our apprenticeship, and it's degree driven. It's degree driven. And so there's the wonderful contact, our employer partner, Pam Shaw, who's been trailblazing, happy to share that information with you. And this is how our work really started. They needed the BA degree. So I'm happy to support. Lots of lessons learned that I'm happy to share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You can certainly also contact, I mean, Joya will give you, Joya can tell you probably everything, but if you want to know sort of a current, if you want to talk to the people actually running the program now, you can contact the folks at the YMCA of the East Bay. Joya can put you in touch with them to get firsthand. Head Start is a fabulous employer partner for apprenticeships because they want BA degrees, because everything's degree driven. So it's a great idea.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. And my other quick question is, what is the status of TK-12 teacher education preparation and CTE? Does teacher education and preparation fall under CTE or not? That's something our dean would like to know. Our CTE dean.
Oh, okay. So first of all, there's not one answer. It's campus to campus. Look, it's for the same reason that the chair of the, I'm going to get this a little bit wrong, but the chair of the equivalent of the child development department at Berkeley City is an English professor. And that's not, I don't have the details quite, but I got the gist of it, right? This stuff is up to each campus. There's an apprenticeship director, there's not. There's a CTE. So it's up to the campus, but certainly teacher training and ECE training can be, and there's plenty of models for it to be included either organizationally in CTE, or certainly included from a funding perspective. To isolate it and say that, well, you guys do teachers, so you're not career and technical ed, is just old fashioned and outdated and wrong. We are career and technical ed. First of all, don't they now drop the word technical? So now we're career, are we not careers?
Yeah.
So part of that is you're bucking, when you have that, when your dean wants to know that, part of what they're saying is, maybe they're not, I'm being cynical here, but well, we know that the trades are technical ed. We know that advanced manufacturing is technical ed. We know that IT is technical ed, but what, childcare? What do babysitters have to do with technical ed? That's what you're actually bumping up against. And you have to learn to talk forcefully and with, informed.
And our dean wants to collaborate, but she needs a piece of paper or a model. Is there a
No, because when I was CTE liaison, when you look at the definition of CTE, it's terminal. So if someone goes to community college, they need to focus on the jobs that are terminal, meaning that their community college pathway got them that job. They did not necessarily need to transfer. And that's kind of the typical traditional definition of CTE, that you're providing terminal degrees, terminal job placements. What we're trying to do, and we've been fighting, I think, with the state chancellor's office around this understanding that, yes, ECE is a terminal degree. You can get permits with just going to a community college. That's the terminal piece. But suddenly the world is different. And you've got TK, and you've got after school, and you've got, and Janice, you're correct. You have to have a top code that's CTE.
Right.
So teaching does not have a CTE top code, education. But what we've tried to link is that, yes, they will get a terminal job. They can go into ECE, they can go into after school, they can go into paraprofessional, but we're still preparing them to be ready to transfer for that next non-terminal job.
Okay.
So I think it's how you describe the pathway and how you describe post-CTE terminal employment. So yes, ECE and after school are terminal, but education, technically, because of the top code, is not. So, but we've got to hook on to the fact, we hook on to the labor market data, and we hook on to the fact that up and down this career pathway, there are jobs begging to be filled. So it's somewhat of a political fight, but it is related to top codes that are classified. And I have to say, our chancellor's office hasn't budged any really. But we're trying to hook it to future jobs and job placement.
Thank you. Thank you. That helps a lot.
Kathleen, can I just add, that is one of the benefits of formalizing it into an apprenticeship,
Yeah.
because apprenticeships are CE.
CTE, right.
Apprenticeship, once you're a former apprenticeship, you could put your SAM code as apprenticeship.
Yes.
You don't have to have it as, terminal, what you just said. And that provides for another way to verify that you are CE.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joya. Yeah, it's a problem with our industry, I have to say. I mean, it's crazy. You look at other industries, it's so simple. Ours is so complicated, and it causes our students so many headaches.
And the big question that I think you were raising, wait, it says Daphne, but everybody else keeps calling you something else. Kim.
Yeah, her name's Kim.
It's a secret code. It's both names.
I was gonna say, I just want to say, I don't
Daphne is the one that gets me paid. Kim is not, but
well, I don't see Kim, so I was like, who are they talking to? But the other question I think you were asking, or maybe I just heard it and you weren't asking it, where the CTC is on all of this in terms of TK is TBD.
Yes.
It's so unclear. What's clear, I've been on this little subcommittee trying to think about this, the workforce development implications of this whole transitional kindergarten thing. What's clear is they are going to reactivate the ECE specialist credential. Part of the reason for that is because it lets them circumvent having to legislate a new credential, and it lets them circumvent the union objections they would anticipate if they did try and get a new credential. And then they're going to try and redefine it to meet the new moment. But there are real significant battle lines being drawn. And one is they want the ECE credential to be 3 to 3, meaning 3-year-olds to 3rd grade. So it drops 0 to 3 altogether, which a lot of different things going on in the state are dropping 0 to 3. Number 2, it puts this new strain on both AA and BA ECE programs to prove in real ways that their students are being trained to work with children up to age 8, not just work with them social, emotional, but actually work with them in all aspects. And nobody knows yet what's going to be. The CTC only meets every other month, but I would encourage folks to attend those meetings, not the whole meeting, you'll die, but the agenda item that's about this. Last time there were 26 public comments made, and it's important because they are listening. You can't just go and bitch and moan. I learned that the hard way, but you can try, but they're not going to listen to you. You have to come sort of with a constructive hat on and try and think through the constraints they're operating under and make the best of it. But the bigger issue of leaving out the incumbent ECE workforce, it's a huge issue, and we better get ready to fight because it's going to be a fight.
Thank you.
Yeah, to say nothing of the shortage we're going to have in the state of after-school workers and infant toddler teachers when all this shakes down. Let's see, any other question? Barbara, do you have any question? Oh, do I see Barbara?
Yeah, I'm here. I just keep moving around my office and the camera's just.
Okay, do you have any questions or?
Well, I have so many and they're just so convoluted, but my situation is I am the administrator of an adult school.
Yeah.
And so many of our adult schools are members of consortia, right? Other adult schools plus community colleges. And adult schools, I have plenty of money in my budget for apprenticeships, and which we support, right? We have a multi-trade construction apprenticeship program where we work with, local trades. And I've been trying really hard to, is anybody from MPC here? In this room?
What's
MPC, no, but Kim's from Cabrillo.
I'm part of
the consortium.
Here's just my thing. Like, I have been trying really hard to develop pathway programs with early childhood development. I'm in charge of our state preschool. I have 2 regular co-op parent education preschools, and I have a dual language parent education preschool. I've got a full day toddler and preschool aged childcare facility, which is state of the art. I have an opportunity really to have a fantastic lab. I've been trying to build a relationship with Monterey Peninsula College. We've tried to do dual enrollment, but because their enrollment is down, they don't really, they would still like to have all their classes on their campus, which prohibits me from building my program. The way I've heard the consortia, you know, the law of the consortia is that you can't build partnerships with other colleges, even if your college doesn't want a relationship with you. So I've been trying really hard. My question is, one, we have a huge shortage in instructional assistants in our district. I want to be able to provide programs to my adult school to, one, build the capacity for bus drivers. We're so short in bus drivers. Early childhood education instructional assistants, even those that we can hire within our own district. My goal is to dual enroll our high school seniors and juniors who might be interested in the field of education. So by the time they graduate, they'll have 12 ECE units and we can hire them for money while they continue to go to school. That sounds really good, but my wheels get cogged. There's always a cog in the wheel that I can't seem to get it up and running. And working with Quality Matters, working with First Five, being on all of these meetings and being in charge of 9 different program areas, I'm just keep, going off course. So I don't even know what my question is anymore. I just wanted to share my story and maybe get some help. I just know all I really want is to make sure to offer 12 units and to offer that, maybe even if I partner with Brandman or we used to have Boston Reed do our medical certificates, and so that we can get these. I don't want to say go circumvent MPC, but it just seems that I get shut down every step. And I know that Salinas is doing great things with their apprenticeship programs and their ECE pathway programs. So I'm just wow. And I know that Hartnell their programs are fantastic. And same thing with Foothill College. Foothill College does a great job with their apprenticeship programs. My son's in their plumber apprenticeship program. So
Barbara, do you know Laura Keeley-Saldana?
I love Laura Keeley-Saldana.
Let's set up a time. I'm working with her on stuff in Monterey County, and let's set up a time for the 3 of us to talk. We might be able to
come visit my school. Come visit our lab. It's awesome.
That's not the issue. Don't worry about that. But at least let me get you engaged. Well, you may already be engaged with her, but let me talk to Laura and raise this to her.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Can you shoot me your email in the chat box?
I sure will. Thank you so much.
It may, we may not have any answers, but it's certainly worth a conversation.
Yeah, and Barbara brought up a great issue. I think a couple issues. One is that community colleges do have service areas.
Not for apprenticeships.
Right. Not for apprenticeships. Yes, I know that.
No boundaries.
But you still have political service areas in that your board is elected by the people that live in that area. So for the community college, so there's that. The other thing that I want to lift of what Barbara said was adult ed is a great partner because they've got a lot of folks who are in a pathway to get employment. And so for those
we have dollars. Right now we have dollars to spend because of COVID. We have tons of carryover. Yeah. Because we've shut down. So I'd like to be able to be effective in the use of that money and spend it. Mm-hmm. And in addition, I just want to say one last thing is one of the context of this whole governance between, the chancellor's office and CDE is that we don't duplicate services. Well, what happens when you have a college that has TV advertisements on we are the #1 in pathway certificate-based programs. We have something for everyone. Well, it shuts adult ed down. It completely shuts us down. Like I'd love to have medical billing and phlebotomy and front office and back office and CNA programs. I'd love to be able to do that because adults come to adult schools for that. But now the community colleges swooped in on all of that to boost their enrollment. And I'm sorry if you're a community college administrator right now, I do love you, but it's frustrating for me as an adult schools principal.
You know at least one example of a workforce development board that's very connected to their community college's adult school. And they are planning to develop an ECE apprenticeship through the adult school. And then they will either by contract ed or figure out some way to get the 4 courses they need to get their associate teacher permit. It's all going to be with the adult school at the center of it. So there, you know, part of this is innovation, innovation, innovation. And I don't work in the school, in the community college system, so I only sort of know the things I've learned along the way. And I'll also defer to Joya to tell you, I don't even know, Joya, what you want to say about that, but the idea of what happens with the competition between colleges in a particular district when people don't have the freedom, colleges don't have the freedom to develop whatever programs they want. These are major, major institutional barriers that we are all fighting against. It's not just you, it's not just your district.
Right. And the colleges don't mind. Here's their rationale too. Like, we want in on the legitimacy of the units. I'm just saying, in the adult ed world, the colleges will say all non-credit classes that are a pathway that lead up, that you can have like contextualized ESL classes, maybe in medical or child rearing or education, but they mean nothing at the end of the day, really, to getting a job, because you don't have anything when you come out of it except for now you can go to the college and take 12 units and pay them the money for your education. And what do we get? Like, I want to be able to have someone come to my school for a purpose at the end of the day and get a job. 2, I'll share it. I don't mind sharing it. I just want to be allowed.
Well, you know, BACCC and Joya, you were at a lot of those meetings. I go to most of them. Kim, I know some of you go. We've got a number of adult ed pathway meetings. There's K-14 strong workforce money. There are efforts to join the 2 pipelines, both financially and philosophically. But just, I'll add one other fly in the ointment, which is structural and it's statewide, is that adult ed does not match the geographic territory of community college. So as if this isn't more complicated enough to say K-12 doesn't match, neither does adult ed. So you may have to deal with 2 different colleges, or there are locations where, you know, adult ed is located miles and miles away from the closest community college. So we have to be creative, and we have a lot of barriers, but this is a great sector to be innovative, because we know we need workers and we need teachers and we need, you know, our children need us to do this.
And Kathleen, just to add, there's so much possibility around the credit for prior learning, that the new bill that came, just with regards to, you know, the military childcare system and how it had a child development associate credential that's already somewhat articulated. I mean, what's nice about that is you can take that and convert it into units. We have a system that we can build from. So I agree, we have a lot of barriers, but we also have a lot of possibilities.
Credit for learning is a great opportunity. Prior learning, yes.
And we can align it to the competencies of what the research has already indicated. I agree.
Yes.
At that.
So as we wind down, any final comments or questions? How about you, Nick? Are you okay? You're still, or your eyes aren't glazed over yet?
No, I'm good. I'm taking all in. But I really appreciate you letting me sit in on this and getting to meet folks and hear everything you're working on.
Great, thank you. So any last comments, questions? Randy, do you want to wrap it up with your conclusion? Oh, Janice had a quick question, I think, and then Randy.
Only Kathleen, Randy and I will do our homework, and then maybe we could have a little debrief as maybe you or
Yeah.
Tracy, or if you
We can
could
meet with you.
That's
Do a
great, because
Zoom.
we really do want to move forward with this. We want to, yeah, so that would be great. Thank you
Just
so
email
much.
me, no problem.
I will. Okay.
Thanks. Randy Wolfe?
What I would say is, by way of closing, is that, I mean, it's understandable why people come into this and they, on the one hand, really want to do this and think, oh my God, this is what we've been waiting for. On the other hand, they're completely overwhelmed and confused because it is a whole world with its own jargon and its own regulations and its own timeline and all that. And this is why we're at capacity as an intermediary. There's not enough capacity to meet the growing need for this kind of stuff. And so Kathleen's right. Go back and listen to some of the programs she's done over the past year just to try and catch up. And I want to really encourage folks to attend this conference in February. These opportunities do not come along very often. We will have experts from across the state and across the country. Experts such as we are. Nobody's been at this more than 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
But such as it is.
Yeah.
So thanks, Kathleen, for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. I hope with the coffee chat format, we had a nice time to chat. And feel free to follow up. Thank you all for your comments, your questions. Barbara, Lisette, Fong, I know you were on here listening. Nick, Randy, and Janice, everyone who's left, please feel free to email. And then save the date, December 1, for our next community practice. Okay, thank you, Randy. Thank you for your expertise.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Enjoy the rain.